Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Profit Minds podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Stephen Kirch, creator of the Profit Minds Growth System, a unique blend of profit growth, productivity acceleration, and building robust business process for scale. In every episode, I interview entrepreneurs and small business owners from around the world with a unique story to tell. You can find the show on YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple and Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and more. Well, hi, everyone. Today, my guest is Paige Arnof-Fenn, founder and CEO of Mavens and Moguls. She's a communications and branding expert. And today, we're going to talk about personal branding. Do you need a personal brand? Welcome, Paige.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Steve. I'm excited to chat with you today.
Yeah. So, you know the drill. Every episode, I ask my guest to tell me the story, right? How did you get to be where you are, and why is it so important to you to do what you do?
So it's been a pretty crazy route, and like most people, I think if you had asked me what I was going to do when I was in school, I would have never guessed I'd be where I am today. I joke that I'm the accidental entrepreneur. I was not looking to start a company. I thought I was going to be the next Meg Whitman. I really wanted to go be a Fortune 500 CEO, and I started my career at companies like Procter Gamble and Coca-Cola in marketing. And I really thought that was going to be my career path. But when the internet started to take off in the 90s, I got bitten by the dot-com bug, and I just couldn't get it out of my brain. And I was the assistant chief marketing officer at Coca-Cola, which is the most recognized brand in the world. It was a huge budgets, world-class marketing with brands that are billion-dollar businesses. And I just had to try something new and exciting and different. So I left my cushy corporate job in Atlanta, got on an airplane, and moved to Los Angeles in 1997 and started working for an internet startup no one had ever heard of. And less than 2 years later, we went public and we were sold to Yahoo. And then I did another startup as the head of marketing. And about a year and a half after that, we were sold to Bertelsmann, which is the largest privately held media company in the world. And then I did another startup as the head of marketing. And we also went public and we were sold about a year and a half or so later. So I call them my three base hits. I'm not Sheryl Sandberg. I didn't work for Google or Facebook. So these are not like life-changing. I'm not a billionaire by any means, but I made a little bit of money 3 times. I joked they're my 3 base hits, and they were so much fun. I learned a lot, very scrappy. You didn't have the budgets that you had at P&G and Coke, but I learned a lot about guerrilla marketing and working on the internet. And then 9/11 happened. You're old enough to remember, some of the listeners maybe as well. But when 9/11 hit, marketing was the first thing that got zeroed out of everybody's budget. And people started coming out. I had just gotten bought out of the third startup, and people were coming out of the woodwork asking me to help them with marketing because their company had laid off the entire marketing department. And I knew a lot of people in venture capital and private equity, and they called and said, "Can you help me? You help my portfolio company do well. Can you do it for another investor, another investment?" And so I started calling all my favorite marketing people that I had worked with in corporate and startups. Everybody had just been laid off. I had people, I had projects, and I put them together. And I called the women the marketing mavens and the guys the marketing moguls. And we just started to form teams and hit the ground running and help our clients, get on track. And we've been at it ever since. That was 22 years ago. And it's kind of crazy. I mean, I can't believe, in a weird way, I think the business is more relevant today than when I started it. I thought I had job security in my corporate life, but I think when you have a portfolio of businesses that you're working with, that's really the new way of working, where people don't have multi-bajillion dollar budgets. They need scrappy people that can roll up their sleeves, jump in, and help them start getting traction. And that's what we do.
Well, that's great. So the companies that you work with, you provide what, fractional marketing services, fractional, you're a marketing agency, if you will, a fractional
So
outside.
we can do fractional CMO work. If you have a chief marketing officer that maybe is going out on maternity leave or getting hip surgery or back surgery, and you need someone to hold down the fort for a few months while they're recovering, we can come in and keep the trains moving. If you have maybe a project that's outside the job description of your current team, you can bring us in on a project basis to, work on something that's maybe out of scope for the core business. We've done that for a lot of businesses. Or maybe you just need someone with a skill set that your team doesn't have, and you need specialists to come in and get things done to get you through a crunch period. So we do anything a marketing department, ad agency, PR agency, or market research shop does on an as needed outsourced basis.
Wow, and that's so valuable to have somebody that's skilled with your level of experience and expertise. It's so important to get the marketing right. Some people say, "Well, outsourcing my marketing, that's got to be really expensive." Um, but
And
it
in fact, it's not as expensive as you think, because if you're getting someone on a fractional basis, we have clients that bring us in at 5, 10 grand a month to work on stuff over the transom. And you can't get a chief marketing officer for that price, but you're getting somebody really skilled that's got just the expertise you need. And maybe they're only working for you a day a week or a day and a half a week. A lot of companies, at P&G and Coke, marketing is like the core business. I mean, when you hire an ad agency, you get the entire floor of the agency. Most of my clients are small, mid-size, emerging market firms. They can't really justify the expense and overhead of a full marketing staff. They may have some junior people who are very tactical, who can do all the social media or manage the website, but they might need a strategist to come in a day or so a week to kind of be the voice of the customer, have that expertise at the senior meeting once a week to really have their head in the game. But, that senior fractional person can direct the junior people to do a lot of work that's very specific and very tactical. So you're really only bringing in the expertise for what they do best, and you're using the lower priced junior people to do all the heavy lifting. So it can be very economical.
Sure. The cost of an expert like you is hundreds of thousands of dollars on a full-time
Exactly.
basis.
And we
And
have technology clients that maybe have 2 trade shows a year that are responsible for the overwhelming majority of their business. So they really only need people very surgically,
right,
strategically, twice a year.
project. Yeah.
Exactly. They can't justify 365 days of a marketing overhead and a full staff. So for them, it makes perfect sense to use a team like us.
That's right. And you get that wealth of experience and expertise, and you know that those people who are doing the heavy lifting, you said, the more junior folk are actually working on the right stuff. That
Bingo.
it fits into
Absolutely.
a coherent strategy of the way the business runs. Um, Good. So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about personal branding, right? Uh, who needs a personal brand?
So I think everyone today needs a personal brand, Steve. And I know a lot of your listeners are probably thinking, I'm not a big brand. I mean, I'm not Beyonce. I'm not Taylor Swift. I'm not LeBron James. I just run a small business, an e-commerce site or a professional service firm. I'm a coach. I don't really think of myself as a brand. Well, I hate to tell everybody that everyone is a brand today. And I think if we learned anything during COVID, it's that you really don't exist today if you don't have an online presence. And everybody is very much a brand today because before people want to meet with you, return your phone call, answer your email, they're going to check you out online. And when they go to Google or LinkedIn and they put in your name, if nothing comes up, you're invisible. And so, why would they spend time to even carve out, part of their day to invest in getting to know you if you're nobody? The other extreme is if they put your name in and a lot of kind of digital dirt comes up, that can be pretty scary too. With a name like mine, if you put my name in with a hyphenated last name, with a company name like mine that's very unique, when you Google me, it's really me. So, it's important to know what's out there about you. If your name is Bob Smith or Jane Jones, obviously they're not going to know who you are because a lot of things are going to come up. But you need to make sure that you have a unique niche. You have to own real estate in your customer's brain that is uniquely you. So if you have a name that could be confused with a lot of people, you may want to put your LinkedIn profile in your signature so they can find you directly. They don't have to see, are you the person that was convicted of armed robbery, or are you the person, that's a porn star or something? That would be really scary if they don't respond because they think you might be a criminal or something. So, and if there is stuff about you and it's about your name and it's not you, you can be in on the joke. So when you pick up the phone and you have your coffee meeting or whatever, you can say, "Oh, I'm so glad you took my call or you met me for lunch. I guess you figured out I wasn't the serial killer. Thanks for meeting with me." And, that's a really good way to let people know, like, I get it. I understand how the world works. And thank you for making time to get to know me as me. So, those are all really important. And with social media today, everybody has a platform. They're on LinkedIn, they might be tweeting, they might be on Instagram, Pinterest, all the different platforms. And you have to be careful about that because you don't want to spread yourself too thin and kind of dilute your brand. I see a lot of people try to be everywhere. They want to blog, they want to tweet, but they're not doing any of it consistently and they're not doing any of it particularly well. That actually can do more damage than good. I always advise people, pick your platform, pick one or maybe two things that really are authentic to you and stick to those. If you like to blog, then by all means start a blog. But if you start a blog, you need to do it consistently, or a newsletter. You don't have to have a newsletter every day or every week, but you need to set the expectation with your audience that it's going to be weekly or bi-weekly or monthly or quarterly, and stick to your promise. Whatever promises you make, you got to keep. With a blog, you do need to blog more frequently, because if you start a blog and the first week you have 3 blog posts, the second week you are busy and you do 1 blog post. The third week you forget. The fourth week you were on the road traveling. The fifth week you have 1. That's kind of training your audience that you're a little bit flaky, and that's not the right brand. That's not the right image. So be very careful. The other thing is, people may look very buttoned up on LinkedIn, and then when they go to X or Twitter, they're very snarky. When they're on Facebook, it's all, family vacations, or if you're in college, maybe it's spring break pictures. You got to be careful about that, because you really want to have a consistent image and a consistent brand across all the platforms. Otherwise, people don't know which version of you is going to show up at the meeting or on the phone call. A brand is about a consistent relationship, that you're going to show up and be the way people expect you to be. And if you think about the businesses that do a great job branding, Starbucks, McDonald's, every time you go into that business, you know what to expect. You know what it looks like. You know what's on the menu. You know what you like to order. Imagine if every time you walked into one of those establishments, they had different offerings. It would be very confusing, and that's not the way to really build on the brand experience and build loyalty. So with your company, you really want to make sure the look and feel, the tone, the language, everything's in sync, because everything communicates.
Yeah, that a bunch of things jumped out at me there. The importance of consistent action, not only with the consistency of the message, picking the right platform, being consistent with your brand and your personality, but also in the timing of what you're doing, right? You said, so if you're posting on a social media platform, are there different sort of rules or frequencies that you recommend for the different platforms, like LinkedIn versus Twitter versus, or I guess I should call it X, versus I'm sorry, I still can't get used to that.
I know. They've got a branding problem.
Yes, but that's a different conversation. But so are there different expectations of the audience when you're doing things on Facebook or
So I think you need to look at who the leaders are, the people that you follow and the people that you respect. People on LinkedIn that want to be considered thought leaders in their industry, they're posting content on a regular basis. They're sharing content on Twitter, on X. I feel like with blogging, like I said, if you're not committed to doing it on a very regular schedule, I always recommend to my clients, think about the blogs that you like, that are ones that you follow, that already have an audience built in and that are targeting a like-minded group that you're trying to reach. Instead of starting your own blog, why don't you just be a consistent contributor to their blog? So when they have a post and you have an opinion, you can comment on it and make sure and put your contact details at the bottom of your post. And then, if you're doing that, people will go like, this guy, Steve, every time he posts something, he makes a really smart comment. But you don't have to do it once or twice a week. You just do it on your schedule. but every time you do it, it's a quality comment and people can find you. That is incredibly valuable. And that audience is already baked in. You don't have to find those people. They're talking about a topic that you're interested in, that you've got experience in, and you can add great value by just consistently making smart comments. I think there are a lot of people, if you're using your LinkedIn status update or Twitter X to tell people, I'm in line at the bank, or the drive-through window is really slow. I need my latte. That is not a good use of updating people, and that's not probably consistent with the brand you're trying to build. So don't get lazy with social media and use it for things like whining and complaining and talking about things that are not your core competency, that are not really core to your brand message, because otherwise people tune you out.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Again, consistent with who you are and what you want your brand to stand for. Those are the things that you need to put out on a consistent basis, whether it's and choose your medium, right? I think the person you said, the example that you gave was the person that posted 3 blog posts in 1 week and then one the next and then didn't for a couple of weeks. I said, why don't you just take those 3 and write them all, but post them in 3 separate weeks so that you have now a consistent. I mean, that's one of the things I do with my podcast, right? I can't record every week, but I record them and then bank them so that they're posted on a regular basis. And I don't have to worry if I can't record for some reason for a couple of weeks. My wife and I like to travel. So sometimes I'm not around and I can't record. So I take that into account by recording these and then releasing them on a regular schedule so that I don't have to worry about every week I've got to be there to do my podcast.
Yep, that is exactly what I'm talking about. That is a great strategy to get to your audience consistently, and that's being strategic about your business. So kudos to you for getting that right.
It's and there are all kinds of tools for getting those things posted on a regular basis. It's not like, I have to be there to post it at the time that I want it to post, right? It's done for me, right? Just set it up and let it go. So all of those things, you use the tools that are available. There are all kinds of things like that. And I would encourage people, this is another thing you mentioned very early on. I would encourage people to Google their name, Google their business, and see what comes up. So you can make the joke if there's somebody who has the same last name as you or the same name as you, and they're a serial killer. You can say, oh, I guess you figured out it's not me.
And a lot of people might think, that's being egocentric or narcissistic. I'm not going to Google myself. It is reputation management. You need to know what's out there that's related to you and your business. And, if you find out there's some trash talking and digital dirt out there, you need to start generating a lot of positive content that pushes down any negative comments. I know companies that have changed their name and rebranded because they had so many bad reviews that, really damaged their brand equity. So, you want that fresh content to pop up, and, you can control your narrative, but you need to understand what's out there. What's the baseline? Do a communications audit. Talk to people that know you, that have worked with you, maybe people that didn't even hire you. Maybe they were prospects that went a different direction. You can do some kind of back channel market research and ask people, what are my strengths? What are, when you pick up the phone, when you email me, what do you think of? What are the 1 or 2 words that pop up. When you recommend somebody to be a client, what do you tell them about me? And it's important to know because, if all the words that come up, if you talk to 10 people and the same types of words come up, that's your brand. That's what people say when you're not in the room. If 10 people have 10 different images and 10 different stories, you got a problem. Not that they're bad, but again, you don't own any real estate in anyone's brain. If you're a commodity, you're competing on price. You don't have a brand. Brands get to charge a premium. So you want to be a brand and you want to own some specific real estate that none of your competition owns, so that when your clients and customers have that problem, they think of your product or service first. That's why you want to be a brand.
That's great. I often work with my clients to come up with not one, not two, but three things that are unique about themselves, right? Same things that differentiate themselves in the marketplace, right? What is it about who you are or how you do business? Because you're likely to find a handful of businesses that share any one of those traits. You're probably going to find one or two that share two, but you're probably not going to find anybody that shares all three.
And you can't stand for 10 things. So
right.
After 3, you need to stop.
I think that's really great advice. So Paige, if somebody wants to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
The 2 best ways are on my company website, mavensandmoguls.com. It's mavensandmoguls.com. Or you can find me on LinkedIn. My last name is hyphenated, but LinkedIn has it all smushed together. So it's PaigeArnoffenn. Or as one of my clients always tells me when she sees me, because she always forgets my last name is hyphenated. My company name has an ampersand in the middle. She always says, when I need to find you, I just Google Paige and Mavens and you pop right up. So luckily, search engine optimization, it works too. So however you find me, it's really me.
That's great. And that concludes our show. Thanks to my guest, Paige Arnof-Fenn, founder and CEO of Mavens and Moguls. I hope you learned something about personal branding. I know I did. Thanks for listening. You've been listening to the Profit Minds podcast. This is your host, Dr. Stephen Kirch. Please visit www.profitminds.net for other episodes or to contact me. Thank you for your positive feedback, comments, questions, and for sharing this show with others. Thanks for listening. Have a grateful day.